Welcome back to the Corrective Culture Podcast. I don't even know what episode we're up to now, but we've got a special guest, Adam Kavanagh, who likes to live out in the wild a fair bit. How you going, brother?
Not too bad, mate.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like, what do we introduce you as? Like, I first saw you, how did I see you? I think when you were with Helen back in the day. And
Don't bring that up.
and then I was like, who's this dude living off the bush, like with a bow, like for like 2 months at a time, and just like what's the longest bush run you've ever done solo?
Oh, well, I guess on and off, I've done one stint that was like 9 months, like living out in the bush on the land. But I guess if you want to get like real technical, maybe like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
of
right.
like
Pure.
like pure solo.
Yeah. Wow. It was like with your car.
Yeah.
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 Car's like the little safety device.
Yeah.
Fuck
right.
yeah. Be gnarly, dude.
Yeah, I because I remember, I think, and on Donald's Instagram I saw he was training you, and I'm not sure if I just reached out to you or whatever it was, but I was like, it's such an interesting character. Like it's very rare that you see people doing that, and now it's getting really popular. Like now everyone wants to go bow hunting, and everyone's sort of pushing back to that, reconnecting. You know what I mean? Back to the ancestral way of living, and that's really our goal with movement and everything too. But for you, I remember when we first met up, I think you have a big scar on your leg from like a pig or something. Something like that happened.
Yeah, on my hand, I got gored by a boar.
And how did that come about?
I guess you're right with the bow hunting. When I initially started getting into bow hunting, it wasn't very popular. It was like this very, low key thing that not many people did. But then with like the likes of Joe Rogan doing it now, it's like really, it's hugely popularized now, which is like good too. You know what I mean? Like it's evolving it. But my hand, this happened on one of my stints up on Indigenous land, and I guess a lot of my bow hunting has been with a compound bow, and then I feel like I'd explored that a fair bit, and I was getting pretty good with the compound bow. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to get into traditional archery now with like a recurve bow. It's a lot harder, you know what I mean? They don't have sights and stuff. It's like more instinctive. It's more primitive, primal. And I thought, that's the next step for me. Anyway, I was out hunting, and I had this situation where there was like a boar walking. I could see where he was about to go. So like sometimes with hunting too, like you're trying to predict what an animal's going to do to get ahead of the game. So I went and got up behind this bush, and he walked out in front of me, and it was a pretty close shot. It was like a 10-meter shot. Took the shot. Everything looked good. I was pretty nervous too at the time though. Like it's like took the shot. Everything was fine. I guess in a way it wasn't a spot. I had like no cover. I had no protection. I was just like completely out in this like grassy flat. And anyway, there was like a good blood trail, and the pig walked off into the grass. And I broke like the cardinal rule of bow hunting. It's like I should have just waited a bit before I went to follow the animal, because like obviously an injured animal's not good. Anyway, I heard a noise in the grass, so in my mind it's like, damn, the pigs, maybe the shot wasn't as good, and it's like walked off a little bit. What actually happened was the pig walked into some long grass, and it had scared another pig, so I heard this pig off in the distance and assumed that the pig that I'd shot wasn't a good shot. Anyway, I walked into the grass and I stood on the pig, and it proceeded to rip me up and kick my ass.
Whoa.
Wow.
So that was a very big lesson learned that day. Yeah, like I was... I've heard about it before, like pigs, hitting like a main artery or something in the leg, and the pig was at the perfect height, and it was trying to go for my legs, and my first instinct was just to sacrifice my hand for like my major arteries.
Fuck yeah.
And I had my hand on its head, and then it just like, it was like nothing. It just swiped its head to the side, and just its tusk went through my hand, and then it grabbed my bow, did a chomp, snapped every arrow that I had, like just destroyed all that.
Wow.
And then it put its head under me and lifted its head and threw me on my back like I was a rag doll.
Wow.
And like definitely like probably one of the most crazy experiences I've ever had. And like you got to like, I have so much respect for animals, and that for me that really hurt to like do a bad shot on an animal, which doesn't generally happen to me. And to have that happen, it was just like
it would have been an emotional experience.
It was
Fuck, that's brutal. How is the emotional like experience of killing an animal like for the first time? Because I like, you know how bow hunting's gotten massive now, but I'm more like infatuated with the like, you know, it's really easy to sit here and say I want to be a bow hunter, but to actually go out there and pull the trigger and do it all is like a whole, obviously another story. Like, what's that feeling like?
I was watching on Netflix, Steve Rinella. He's got like a little series called Meat Eater.
Yeah, I love that.
He explained it really well. I'm pretty sure it was him before I quote him. It's like, and maybe someone quoted it to him, but he said, it's like experiencing every emotion at the same time. It's like you're so happy and grateful that you've got food, because generally when I'm hunting up north, it's like I'm generally like only trying to get food. Like there's like a little shop and stuff up there.
Yeah.
But like generally like I try to push myself. I'm only catching what I eat. When I'm up there, like obviously down here it's a little bit different, but so like when you know that you've got food, but then also that feeling of like, say I get like a scrub bull or something like that, and I'm going to share that with the community, that feeling of like, oh wow, like I've got food, I'm about to provide, but then also like that sadness of taking something's life. And there's like there's a lot going on.
How do you overcome that? Like, because I mean, we all eat meat, and I know it's like important to like at least think about that and thank the animal. But like, how do you, like that? Oh, I love animals. It's like it's so hard to, you know. Do you think that like some people in the tribe were always hunters and they just got it built in, or do you think that it's something that you can develop even if you're,
One thing, because as we were chatting earlier, I've started to take people out into the bush with me. Like men come out with me now, and I've started to do like a 10-day tour where people come up, take no food, and just live off the land for 10 days. And one thing I've found, I think it's like that primal instinct is in all of us, but like until you've hit the switch, so to speak, where you've put yourself in a position where you have to like, you know, explore that feeling, or or doing those things, it is hard to explain, but like it is in us. And I think in ways like we play it out in different ways, like, you know, like we all kind of hunt and gather, but maybe we're not hunting and gathering, but we'll do those kind of things. But I feel that even for myself personally, I love animals. I absolutely love animals. So then it's like so weird to say that, like, oh, but I also like to catch my own food and eat them. But when you put yourself into a position where, you know, you're fasting and you haven't got food, and like you have to find food, from my own personal experience, what I've seen is like the truth is revealed when you go do some crazy stuff in the bush. Like when you start fasting, like I've seen people that are plant-based and they get hungry enough in the bush, they know what they got to eat.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. So it's just like,
Wow.
but how crazy is like, we're like, as a human race, we don't know what we're meant to eat. It's like, we're like, oh, you know, like Beyond Burgers are what we're meant to eat. But it's like, it's so simple what we're meant to eat. But until you get really hungry, that's when you really know what you're meant to eat.
Fuck, that's so well put.
Man, I remember you told me when you were, last time you were here, when you go out in the bush, because say plant food in Australia, like you said there's fuck all really, as in if you want to really survive. Like if you're traveling, you're doing 3 days in the bush, you can nibble on plants, but if you eat a fish, it can keep you going for a couple of days. So like say surviving as a vegan in the Australian bushland, is it possible?
So someone asked me that the other day actually, and I guess it totally depends on where you are. Like, let's just say around the world, like there's certain locations you could go and like you're probably going to be able to do that for a long time and you're going to be fine. Potentially there's even places in Australia where you could do that. And since I remember saying that a long time ago, but since doing that and going out and doing some more bush tucker missions with the Indigenous crew, like there actually is a lot more food than I thought there was out there as far as plant foods go.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also had an awakening for a different reason. Like there's something called, and this is my personal experience, this is just where I'm going with this. I guess we'll call it like palate fatigue, where like, you know, like in like those food eating competitions, like they'll be drinking a Coke to get like that sugar hit to be able to eat more like hot dogs or something like that. Where I'm going with that, it probably doesn't make sense here. I found, so when I did that TV show Naked and Afraid.
Yeah.
And when I was out there actually was a lot of these beans, these acacia beans on this tree. But what was happening was that even though they're like, I was still losing weight, obviously, there were so many of these beans, like potentially like I could have just survived on those and you think I would have been right, but they were so acidic that like there was only a limit to what I could actually eat, and that limit was not enough to be able to sustain myself. Like it kind of took the edge off a little bit.
Yeah.
But the corners of my lips would actually start to split if I pretty much had more than a handful.
Wow.
So it's just like, people don't think about that, like the acidity of plants or like the plant toxins and all those other things. Like depending, obviously, like there is certain plants like you'd probably go to town on and get a lot of energy out of, but that definitely is a factor that I didn't even think about before doing stuff. It's like there's actually like a bit of a limit to certain, like how many plants you can eat before, like, you know, you probably have too much and then you'll start to have like stomach upset and whatever else. But like where I'm going with that is like the Australian outback, and where I spend a lot of time, like a lot of the plants there are pretty toxic. Like they have to be fermented, soaked, processed, and apparently like there's probably still toxins in them even after that. So it's like it's a pretty harsh environment.
Oh.
And just from my own personal experience with the Indigenous people, it's like like fat is actually king. So like maybe they'd get an animal that's not fat, like they wouldn't eat it. They only seek animals with fat on them. Because even like you could be eating what they call it, rabbit starvation. Like you could eat the crap out of a heap of rabbits, but because they're not fatty, like eventually the calories used to digest it doesn't add up anymore. And then like so even like with meat, like you could end up going backwards even with meat.
Fuck.
So if you're just eating chicken all the time, sort of thing, like you need that
you got to have
so lean.
Fat, yeah.
Wow.
Fuck,
and
cool.
how you were saying, like it's still all fats, proteins, and carbs. You know, so if you are just trying to survive off plants, they're carbs, and nuts are primarily a fat with a bit of protein. But then what, you're just going to survive off nuts like all the time? And what if there's not a nut tree around or something like that? Like, yeah, you just start to see how clear it is, and how Dr. Pran said the same thing. We're a species that's trying to be told how to eat. But the thing that we go back to is all the meat you're eating out there is wild and organic, and all the plants are wild and organic, and the water is from a stream with minerals in it. And it's, you know what I mean? It's the same shit. It's the same shit we teach our clients, but he's figured it out from doing it, from living.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that like on a joint consciousness level, as the world gets more populated, like maybe like the universe has kind of put vegans and vegetarians here and lots of them to kind of like make the earth like survive in a way? I don't know. It's just a thought, like, because I get it. Like I'm on board with you 100%. But there's also like, if we all just start hunting and eating all our is that sustainable? Or do you think like,
I guess firstly, I'd just say like, I'm not telling everyone to eat meat.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
That's my truth.
Fucking am.
I mean, I secretly am as well. But like just for me personally, from spending time in the nature, especially doing that TV show Naked and Afraid, like that's I really push my limits doing that. But being out there and just sort of seeing firsthand, it's like in an ideal, perfect situation, you could probably eat a lot of plants, but realistically, you know,
so true.
It's like, but also like, and a lot of the plant-based stuff we're doing now, like we're getting plants from all over the world. But if you like had to survive off what you have right here in your general area, that's when you really start to, that's when it gets really hard, when you don't have all those options.
How important is it to get hungry?
Yeah, it's been
we don't do it
no.
enough, hey?
No. And like I'll get to your question in a
sorry.
sec.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to say, it's like, it's funny how my health is when I'm out in the bush and I'm eating the wild meats and stuff. Like I'll get really vibrant and I'll get like jacked and I'll just get like, and I'm not even working out and I'll just get like super fit and feel really good. And then like I come to town and even though I don't really, I'd say I don't really eat, like I don't eat too bad, but I get a few pan of ice creams in me.
Yeah.
And then the wheels fall off. Like it's crazy how easy it happens. It's how easy it happens.
Panna, like all the organic ice creams. Yeah. Fuck, how good are they? But yeah, it must just be like calories that just your body's not really understanding, eh? Just must be like kind of like empty calories.
Yeah. If I even listen to my body and how I feel, like fresh organ meats from a wild animal, it's just like, I feel good. You can tell, you can feel it. You're like, oh, wow, my body needed that.
Every
That's
tribe
crazy.
in the world says that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love watching videos of tribes hunting. I have to do it with you one day, 100%. I feel like that's a calling right now, you know. But I watch video. I just enjoy it. I just type in tribes hunting, and for some reason I just love that shit. And what I saw them say, meat, water, and honey keeps them happy. And they were like, liver makes you strong. And they said the same thing about honey, like energy, or whatever their word for energy was, you know. But there's no preconceived ideas for them. They just have something and see how they feel, and that there's truth in that. And then, you know, the people tell you that liver's too high, and what do they say? Too
Vitamin
high
A.
in vitamin A and shit. Like, it's like they just did it for millions
There's
of
also
years.
no cyclists out in the wild.
Yeah. So it's cool you came back to that realization. Hey, we already knew it. Yeah.
I say, because I've started to take men out with me, I never usually say too much. I just wait and see how people feel or whatever the reaction is to the certain organ meats or just into wild meats in general. And I just did a tour, and the guy took his first pig, heart shot with a bow, and we were processing it up, and I took the testicles out of the pig, which, like, in Australia, like, even when I started bow hunting and everything, my mates would be like, oh, you know, you don't really eat the wild pigs. Like, that's pretty gross, let alone like eating wild pig testicles like that. If people hearing that, it's probably going to blow anyone's mind if they can't. Anyway, took the testicles out of the pig, cooked them up, and the guy that came out with me on the tour like ate them, and he's like, holy crap, how good they taste. It actually is crazy. Like, probably testicles are the most delicious thing on the animal.
Amazing.
Yum.
Yeah, mate, I love them.
Yeah,
and
Mate, I love them.
yeah, he, like, even for a few days after, he's like, man, I'm still buzzing. He's like, I feel so good. He's like, I can like feel like, he's like, I feel so good. He's like, it's the testicles. And I'm like, yeah, man, I know. He's like, I feel so good.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah, we've said on the potty before, man. Jake had these beef testicle powder and then woke up in the middle of the night with a heart on.
Yeah.
So, and it's a like I believe there is a like for like principle. Yeah. So do tribes. Remember in Apocalypto when he gave them, the dude that couldn't have kids, the boar testicles, whatever it was, that animal, I can't remember what it was. But for the people that think it's like, no, that's all just, you know, what's the word, like magic sort of shit. It's a similar amino acid profile. So it's like very close to what yours are like. There's going to be differences, but your body can use those materials and flip it and use it for you real quick. So instead of thinking that's all like mystical, it is that too, but, you know, just for the people like-minded that want that logic with it. It's a similar, like Dr. Pran said, a similar amino acid profile. If I eat eyes, it's full of retinol and vitamin A. You know, it's simple as that.
Really?
And how Jake's question before about getting hungry, like, what do you got to say about that?
So the question initially, like, about, I guess, world population or wherever that was going. Yeah. I guess in a way, one thing I've been thinking about, like, obviously everything that's happened sort of recently, and, you know, you hear like conspiracies. It's like, oh, you know, it's like trying to depopulate the world or whatever. It's just like, no outside source really has to do anything more than what we're already doing now. Like, in general, like, the population as a whole eats like crap, and like, we're already getting more sterile, and you know what I mean, like with the studies, or as like how men's testosterone is getting lower and lower and lower. It's like we're already just doing the thing without that's why it's like people like the Liver King and, you know, whatever people like that coming out now, like promoting to eat whole foods again. Like, it is important in a way, because it's just like, in general, like, most of the population eats pretty crap. And like, so it's like no one really has to do anything. It's like we're already doing it to ourselves. just by eating crap.
100%.
Yeah, and
Spot on it.
like you get clients and ask them like, first thing on the phone, like, where's your food and your water and stuff like that at? And they're like, oh, we eat pretty healthy.
Yeah.
We eat pretty healthy. And in my head, I'm like, I wonder what their level of health is, because I thought I was eating healthy when I was going to Aldi and getting fucking 10-pack of turkey mince with packet salads, and then meal prep and like processed turkey mince with sprayed salad, thinking I was being healthy, and then every day being revolted. Like after 3 days of that, I was just revolted by it and just jamming it down my guts, just disconnected from the body because what some study told me about protein and fucking muscle building with that stage of life. So there's levels of health, and how you're saying you're just listening to what feels good, and it's as simple as that, man. What I did want to touch on too is like you went through a big and probably still going through a gut health journey.
Yeah.
Which is amazing that, you're using back to ancestral foods to clean it out. Because what happened? You went to Africa and they gave you malaria pills, didn't they? Is that how it all started?
Yeah, so I've been to Africa twice. The second time and the more recent time was when I did Naked and Afraid, that show. Mm-hmm. But the time before that, I just did like 4 months traveling around Africa, just sightseeing and just having a oh, I mean, love Africa.
Yeah,
it's so
isn't it the most raw, like, when you talked to before about killing an animal, I feel like it's like the equivalent of just travel.
Yeah.
You just go there and you see poor,
place.
rich, like it's the scariest place I've ever been.
Yeah. Like how do I describe Africa? It's like the most brutal, beautiful place I've ever been. Like I nearly died there so many times, but I'd go back. I love it.
When you say nearly died, like what happened? Was it
like first 30 minutes in Africa, got robbed. After that, got caught up in a riot, people shooting at each other with AKs.
Whoa.
It wasn't like, there was like people throwing rocks at people with the AKs, and the people with AKs are shooting. I was just like, this is loose. And then
it's kind of just normal too.
Yeah.
There.
Like I got so many stories I could go into that. But it's like that. Like, nearly got killed by a hippo twice.
Fuck.
Yeah, just like, shit.
Yeah, because like, Australia, right? Like we've got poisonous animals, but we don't have human eating, stomping fucking elephants like they do. Was like we actually out in the wild over there in Africa? Because like the big cats and shit, like it's fucking nuts.
Yeah, like I just did, like the tour I did over there, we're in the back of this truck and you just sort of set up a tent every night. And I think we were out in the Serengeti. So I mean, like I guess the wild over there is like the national park. So we're in the national parks.
Yeah.
And I even remember like we were getting ready to set up our tents, and we're like the truck's just starting to slow down, and there was like I could see it from the window. If I put my arm out the window, I could have touched it. There was this big lion sitting there, and the bus starts to slow down. He's like, righto, anyone wants to, we'll set up our tents now. And there's only like 6 people on the tour. It was pretty, it was pretty wild. And then, we just set up,
what the fuck?
like that. And I was just like, okay, like there's a lion just there, but it's like, all right, we're just setting that up now. All right. Okay. Yeah. That's how we're rolling.
Holy shit.
All right.
I love that shit with the robbery. Like how did that robbery happen? How did they initiate that?
I must say it's the most friendly robbery. Like if I was going to get robbed, it was really friendly, but it was only friendly because I
complied.
Yeah, it's complied. Yeah. And it was that schooled me up straight away. Like the rest of Africa was awesome after that, because I knew, I was like, oh, okay, like you just can't be silly in Africa because like doesn't. But yeah, it was, even looking back, it was so stupid. I'm like, just walk around Nairobi, and at the time there was a government warning issued to not go there, and I don't check stuff like that. So I didn't even know, because I got there and I'm like, oh, like I'm like the only tourist here. I'm like, that's cool. Like I've got to order myself.
Like, passport.
Yeah, I was like, all good. And I even remember I like pulled up at the accommodation, and I'm like leaving the accommodation, which was in itself like a prison compound. And the lady's like, you sure you want to go out there by yourself? I'm like, hell yeah. Why wouldn't I? So naive.
Yeah.
And then, just started walking around town, and like, I still had fun. Like I love bartering and stuff, like the people there, like, barter for whatever stuff. And this guy's like, oh man, I got like all this cool stuff in the back of the shop.
Yeah.
If you want to come check it out in the back of the shop. And I'm like, yeah, that seems safe. And then we like went to the back of the shop, and he's like, oh no, like there's more up the back. And like we just kept going further and further deeper into this building. And then eventually there was like a room full of dudes and just me. And I'm like,
here we go.
Okay. Like this is not great.
Did your heart just sink?
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like,
And what
you know
did,
when you
what
just
did they
know? I was
take?
like, oh, just money.
Yeah.
But even though it was like, it was so fine.
Yeah,
was
he,
so
he was
fine.
like, I'll take a quarter of your money.
Yeah, it was just like, just whatever's in your wallet. And I'm like, all right, okay. Yeah,
That's
it was
pretty
all
cool.
good. It was like, it was pretty, like, it's not even that big of a deal. It was like, yeah, it's all good. You know, like,
Yeah.
they were so concerned with the money once I grabbed it out. They'd forgot about me and I just like walked out. It's like
Fuck.
they'd forgot about me the minute. I was just like, oh, cool.
Man, I got given a pen knife, like a baton knife, sorry, by the security guard to drive like across the Trans-Sky. Do you know what the Trans-Sky is? It's down the bottom and then you go up to Durban.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's like, don't pull over for anyone. He goes, if you pull over, he goes, stab him.
Oh, man.
He was like, especially through the Trans-Sky, he's like, he goes, if you feel like it's bad, it's bad, and it's really bad. And he's like, because we had one girl with us and it was two dudes, and he was just like, don't fuck around here. And the more the stories I heard from him, I was just like, oh fuck, yeah, I'd go back, but I'd want to go with like a bit of a crew, I reckon.
One thing I found like that, it was only when I was in the city there that I had like a bad experience.
Mm.
But the minute that we sort of got out into the wilds of Africa, so to speak, and then I could just sort of, you know, be my
Totally.
crazy bush self out there.
Yeah,
The people out there were amazing. And even in the city, they were amazing. And
Mm.
like, I must say, like everyone in Africa was amazing.
yeah,
It was just like that one situation which could happen anywhere. And I was like,
yeah,
But-
yeah. Tourism areas, hey, like,
yeah.
yeah.
That's it. Said it perfectly. It's just like tourism areas kind of attract a bit of shifty stuff. So
yeah. The poorer parts that I went, the cities, the poorer cities that I went, I was, so scary, and everyone had a story. It's crazy. Like there's nothing like it in the world, eh?
no, like yeah, in all that, like it was so funny. Like even after that experience in Africa, I guess I was kind of calling in a trip back to Africa. I was like, oh man, I'm so keen to go back to Africa.
Yeah.
And that's when that TV show's like, hey, do you want to come do this thing? And I'm
Fuck.
like,
So
"Righto, let's
tell us
go."
more about the TV show. Like what happened? It's just like a TV show came about, and you were actually in the wild, naked and afraid in Africa.
Yeah. So how, like, it's an American show.
Mm.
And I mean, I remember I used to watch all sorts of survival shows. Like my biggest kind of idols are like Les Hidden's The Bush Tucker Man in Australia and like that kind of stuff. And then I remember like, you know, watching Naked and Afraid and Dual Survival. Like there's all these survival shows. Just absolutely loved it.
Alone?
Loved
Have you been
it.
watching Alone?
Yeah, Alone
Yeah,
is good.
Alone's good.
Alone's
Yeah.
pretty cool. But like, yeah, you know, like watching that stuff and you're
Yeah.
like, wow. And then you think, like, yeah, shit, I'd love to give that a crack one day. But at the time where I was at, I'm just like, no, like, you know, it's just like this really far off dream that I could never, you know. It's like even though I'm out in the bush doing crazy stuff in my mind, it's like, oh no, but that's survival stuff. That's something else. You know, it's like it's over there and I'm over here. And then I got this random message on Instagram and Discovery, like one of the scouting agencies for Discovery's like, hey, do you want to come do this show? Because that's not normally how it goes. Like apparently, like you apply for the show and then you do it. So I don't know, for whatever reason they sent me a message and I still had to
Wow.
like do the interview process
Yeah.
and like the psych evaluation and stuff. So like, you know,
Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah, you're not
yeah,
just there the next day.
Yeah. No, there's a process. But yeah, it was crazy. And then it's funny. I actually said no a few times. I was all pumped up. I'm like, yeah, I'll give this a go. And then like
Yeah.
reality set in and they're like, all right, we got some dates. Are you available? And I'm just like, oh, nah. Like I just got so nervous. I was
Yeah.
like, nah, can't do it. And I think it was either like the third or fourth time I just got this email and it said, are you ready? And I was like, yep, let's go.
That's
And I
sick.
was ready. Like, yeah, I don't know, for whatever reason, some stuff had to happen before I actually committed. But like when I got the message, I knew. I was like, yeah, righto.
Fuck.
I'm not ready, but I'm ready. Like I'll
Yeah.
ready to go.
And has your like fame, you know, like jumped quite a lot since that show, like your Instagram following and things like that?
Not really, actually. It's kind of random. Like, not even the thought about fame, whatever. Like, I don't know if I'm in that
Yeah.
category yet, but one thing I've noticed, even from like traveling in Australia, like people just like and see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'll have people pull me over and they're like, oh, I know you.
Yeah. How
I'm like,
sick's
"Oh,
that?
How cool. Like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. Even the other day, I like went into the butcher's and this guy's like, are you Adam? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I know who you are.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Does it make you
awesome.
feel weird inside?
I'm actually getting used to it now.
Yeah.
That's good.
In a way. Like
Yeah.
it's not
Well, you're
like Chris
TV you're on-
Hemsworth fame, but it's like
No,
oh,
but you're on TV.
Yeah.
Like you're on a show. Like people are
Naked
going to
on
notice
TV,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, naked on TV. Yeah. How good, man. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, that is cool, man. And with the show, what was the hardest part of that? What was the hardest that where it was like, fuck, like this is getting hard right now, you know?
a couple of days before the show actually they were pretty brutal. So I guess I was getting super confident. I'm like, yep, I'm ready to have a crack at this. And then like reality set in because they flew me over to Africa, and then I had to stay in this lodge with some of the rangers before I went and did the show for a couple of days before it started. And then it was like 3 days before I was meant to start doing the show, because they give you, like, for whatever reason, I was just lucky. I just got to go there like a couple of days early. And about 3 days before the show, I just started to get so nervous. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep.
Oh,
And
shit.
just, I was like throwing up, and just, I was actually
Shit.
like, holy shit, what am I doing? What am I doing?
And you had that chick there with you too, eh? Like, was she nervous?
Yeah, well, I hadn't met her at that,
Oh,
that
okay.
stage. So, like,
Yeah.
you don't know who you're going out there with.
Ah.
So I didn't even know. I could have been another dude for all I knew.
Mm.
You know, I had no idea. And then the funny thing was, it was like so nervous. Then eventually, like, you get your gear off and they send you off into the bush. And that was one thing that I loved about it as well, is like how legit it was. It was like, yep, get your gear off, you go out. There's like no behind the scenes help. There's no secret food or nothing like that. It's just like,
You're out
it's
there.
legit. It's
That's
legit.
sick, man. Yeah. It's good to
And
know.
it would have been, I guess I ended up getting a bit sick at the back end of it. So Samantha, the lady that I did it with, she got a bit dehydrated and she got pretty sick. And then I ended up like helping her a fair bit. And then I think by helping her, I kind of like got a bit sick, and then she sort of helped me a little bit at the back. But that was probably the toughest part. But if anything, it was just like, I was just frothing over it that much that it was just like, it was actually all the nerves before it was the worst part.
What do you mean help her with dehydration? Like, what do you mean by that?
So yeah, she got pretty sick, pretty dehydrated. I mean, not like, yeah, her eyes rolled back in her head a bit, and I was like, oh, okay, like they're willing to let this go pretty far.
Yeah.
Like,
Holy
you know,
shit.
like, yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like.
And is there
okay.
a cameraman with you the whole time, or
No.
no?
No.
You guys are
It's
filming?
like, technically they don't really like people talking about all the behind the scenes stuff. But,
Okay.
which is fine, like, it's all good. But it was just like, she got so dehydrated and sick that basically I wanted to keep her in the challenge. I think mentally she was pretty stubborn and rock solid. She wasn't going to tap out.
Yeah.
But it was just like, all right, she just needs a bit of a hand. So I was just constantly just getting water, boiling it, cooling it off, forcing her to drink water.
Yeah.
And just did that cycle for like 3 days until she started to pick up.
How long were you out there for?
21 days.
Holy fuck,
Wow.
dude.
Well,
Yeah, it's like, and you're nude.
Fully sought out
Wow.
starkers.
And
yeah.
she was too.
Yeah.
Yeah, holy shit. And so you just
But so this is the thing too. It's like, I think if the world tomorrow is just like, yeah, right, let's just chuck the clothes off and just go like that again. Honestly, it was like the second day, didn't even register as a naked person. That was just like, oh, that's a person. Like you just
Fuck,
get
that's
so used
cool.
to it. It's just like I could be seeing swords all day and I'm going to be all good.
yeah, for
It's
sure.
just like you
yeah.
get so used to it. I mean, in that situation.
Yeah, yeah, not down here.
No,
I'm gonna be all
no.
good.
Yeah.
It's like you go to Barcelona on the beach the first time as an Aussie, and every chick's got their top off, and you know within about 10 minutes, it's like you're not looking anyway. You're trying to not be that dude, but even the locals aren't looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's so funny. It's like as soon as you're not on that beach,
Yeah,
again,
in
the rules
Australia,
apply.
you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
It's like it's out there.
Yeah.
But it's not, you know. It's perfectly fine, really.
and sorry, back to that thing. Like, because you could only eat meat for like how long could you only eat meat for? Because your stomach was so wrecked.
Yeah, so that was actually right before that show as well.
Yeah.
I went through this period where it's like, yeah, if I eat anything, any kind of plant or anything, I was just getting like massive bloating and just like diarrhea and just all these weird stomach issues. And that's when it was around that stage I actually went carnivore, and it was before that challenge as well. But in a way, the funny thing was, it's like, so I was like pretty strict carnivore because of all these, the stomach upset I was having from plants. And then after doing that 21-day show, which in reality was really a fast, like even the food I did find and get was not much. So it was like pretty much, you'd say it was like a 3-week fast. I could actually add so much more back in after doing that. It was like that huge fast was a massive reset. And then like I could eat so much more. And I was like, wow, like things I hadn't been able to eat for a long time, I was able to put them back in. But I can see now, I went off the rails there after that show too. And when I say I'm going off the rails with food, it's like kind of funny. People are like, oh wow, what did you eat? It's like I had some rice crackers and honey, and I just got extremely bloated and like couldn't sleep, and just all these weird like health symptoms started to come back. And at the time, wasn't really aware. I was like, oh well, I'm eating crap. Like obviously that's the issue. And then it was like, yeah, my stomach was really good after the challenge, and then I just started to get that sweet tooth back and like adding fruit back in and the odd bit of penna and whatever. And then even like my stomach issues and that aren't as bad now for sure, but it's like, oh no, like there's still something there. Whenever I go carnivore, it like alleviates all the issues, which I think are fungal. But whenever I have like starchy plants or anything like that, just flares it back up again. So I was like, but ages ago, initially when I went carnivore, I didn't know that's what it was.
Yeah.
It's like I'm slowly working it out more and more, but it's like, yeah, the more carnivore I go, I'm just like, I'm not giving my body anything that's going to upset it, so to speak. But now I'm more aware. It's like, oh, okay, like if I have too many carbs or fruity things or starchy things.
I think Paul said something like that. Paul said he's had a fungal infection, like a deep fungal infection his whole life. So he has to be really careful on on what he eats.
So I actually did his fungal parasite course.
God,
just
cool.
out of curiosity, because I thought stuff it like
it's cool, eh?
I just know this is the next thing for me, because I know it's a fungal parasite thing. Just because like I used to get like athlete's foot all the time, and I had fungal
Skin
issues.
things,
And had weird rashes all the time. I'm like, what the? But I'm like, oh yeah, I heard him say that. He's like, he has to be careful all the time, because for that exact reason. That's what I've noticed. It's like I'll do good for a while. Like I'll go carnivore, and I'll like my stomach and everything will get really good, and then I have like this false kind of sense that I can eat crazy stuff because I can for a bit. I'll start adding sweet, like fruit back in, or a little bit of panna here and there back in. I'm like, oh yeah, like great, like bit of potato and starchy stuff back in. I'm like, oh, all good. Yeah. And then it's not.
Yeah.
Like, and then when I heard him say that, like he's got a deep fungal issue that will pop its head up if he starts going too far off with his food. And I'm like, yeah, I think I've got that going on.
Yeah.
Have you done our cleanse before?
No, not yet.
No, never done it? Yeah. And have you done a fungal cleanse before?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, dude.
Going carnivore. Yeah, I'm keen, man.
It'd be easy for you. It'd be so easy for you.
Yeah, just like, because I reckon, like with Doug Kaufman's work, because all Paul's stuff is based off Doug Kaufman's work, right? And you could just YouTube Doug Kaufman on YouTube. Of course, you could YouTube Doug Kaufman on YouTube, but anyway. But yeah, he talks about it's basically that starving it, but the big thing is also helping it die. So that's why it's bringing in not just the carnivore, but bringing in the oregano oil, bringing in apparently curcumin's really good, vitamin C, vitamin D3, that's cod liver oil, that's meant to be good while starving it. And then obviously having a binder, like a charcoal clay, that's what that extract is, just to help clean that shit out. But because you saying when you had ivermectin, worms that come out from, is that from pigs, you reckon? Or...
No, so like I guess how they say, I mean it probably is, I'm just going to try to justify why it's not. I guess that thought of like if the environment's good for them, they'll be there.
Yeah.
So it's like I know my environment must be pretty good for them, and that's why they're there. But yeah, man, I've eaten stuff where I have physically seen worms in it. And like the worms that I had in me, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, that's what I was looking at in the animals I was eating. Hasn't deterred me from eating it, because I'm just like, and even like now with what I know, it's like, oh, okay, like, potentially the pigs and whatever I'm eating are full of worms, which I have physically seen, and I usually just eat around the worms, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'll just be like, oh, okay, like all the worms are in the stomach cavity. I'll just eat the legs.
Yeah.
That was my thought. And but even with what I know now, it's like, all right, well, there's a reason that they're pretty keen to be in my body. what's that reason? It's not like
That's just a symptom,
Yeah.
eh?
Man,
And we are made up of that. We are made up of good and bad fungi and parasites. So it's like, it's not like we can't rid ourselves of parasites. We're just trying to we're just trying to get balance. That's all it is, hey? And I think like we can starve the bad ones or
I think ones that you can see shouldn't be in there, you know what I mean? With
Yeah.
the eye, but the little microscopic ones, like, you know, they have their role, but it's a beautiful, like, symbiotic relationship, like everything. I guess every animal is in a symbiotic relationship, but, cause my friends right now that are doing it, they have an excessive amount of sugar. I'm talking like one at his worst was a liter of E in the morning and shit like this, right? So, and then we were out the other day, I was Googling tapeworm symptoms. I was rattling off like 17 of them and he had every fucking one of them, man.
No way.
And I was like sweaty, clammy hands. He's like, my hands are sweating right now.
Yeah.
And he's like brittle hair, grinding teeth. He's like, my teeth are chewed down. Like, and he goes, I can't put on weight. And it's like all the symptoms, but they're there to help the body not deal with it too. You know what I mean? They're there to eat the sugar. So otherwise, the body's going to deal with that sugar and the blood sugars and the insulin and the you know what I mean. The liver, the organs have to deal with it. So it's almost a symbiotic relationship to saying, all right, maybe we can keep this person alive longer, and we can feed off their body while we do that, and we can survive too. You know.
Yeah.
And but then if you change the environment, even without all those supplements, man, like they die. You know, people do 2 week bone broth fast and worms and shit come out because there's just no food from them. And most of their life cycle, besides tapeworms, live up to like 30 years, but most of their life cycle is only a couple of weeks. So you not eating for a few days is like, a third of their life or a quarter of their life, whatever. So it's like, it's fasting is such a good reset. And that dude recently had this tumor, did like a 28-day fast, and that with everything else, he got rid of his tumor, and he was meant to get surgery for it.
Yeah, well, Doug Hoffman talks about parasite and fungal infections being heavily linked to like tumors and cancer. And I believe him like completely. Yeah, it's like if the body's out of balance, that's what cancer is. So,
yeah.
I since doing the TV show, I haven't really done any big fasts since then because like mentally it does something to you when you don't eat for like 3 weeks. Like, even after the show, I was like walking around just holding bananas. Couldn't put them down. I would just have them under my arm, and I was just walking around with them. Like that's where I was at, or I'd be walking around with a plate and I had a steak on it, and I couldn't put it down. I was walking around holding a steak, couldn't put it down.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
it brings you to the present moment. Hey, it takes all the bullshit out of your life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you just got to think about your next meal.
And honestly, like that experience being out there, one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Like just because, like as bad as it sounds, like people are like, oh, I don't even think about like your family and everything. It's like, to be honest, I was like just so in that experience. I wasn't thinking about anything. It was just like, all right, I just got to get food and water today. That's what I got to do. And it was like, that was the best. That was so good.
That's what you live for, eh? What about when you got home and you knew it was going to air soon? Did you have some anxiety about, like being naked on TV and fear of judgment and all that kind of shit?
No, not really. I feel at this stage like most people have probably seen me naked, so it's just like
yeah, true.
It's like, oh yeah,
that's great.
Nothing new. No, honestly, it was so no stress at all.
And
amazing.
And what were you eating, man? How did you find water? What was the first meal you found? What was the most important meal you found? Like all those little details.
Yeah, I guess, like I even knew, like, because generally I bow hunt, but I didn't take my bow over there because I knew I was like I knew it was like, desert location. It's probably not going to be great for big animals or anything. Going to have to keep it small. And it's like most of the things that I already knew from being in Australia just crossed over, and like everything was the same over there. It was like water reeds. There was like, but when I first started the show, I didn't really eat any of the plant things. They were kind of there. I'm like, all right, check. They're there if I need them. But like, I'm just going to try to focus on just getting the meaty things because I knew that's what that was going to give me the most bang for the buck anyway. And yeah, man, just ate heaps of grasshoppers, cicadas, crickets.
Just raw?
Nah, I was cooking them up. Yeah.
Can you eat them raw?
I mean, you can't, like, obviously it's like anything, like they're pretty well known for having like parasites and stuff.
Oh, right. Okay. I didn't know that.
Callum's sick the first day on the show. I'm a raw eater.
Yeah, I just eating a raw meat. Like you see those guys eating raw tartare all the time and shit. But yeah.
No, like honestly, like, I mean, if I had to, I would have just eaten them raw. But I was like, oh, okay, like, I made a fire which was also like super nerve wracking, that making that first fire, like, oh shit, I do this all the time, but do I really know what I'm doing? And then made the fire. Then it was just cooking up the grasshoppers and stuff. And what was happening was like at night time I'd be sleeping, and like because I was super alert, even when I was like sleeping pretty good, like I was surprised how good I slept in the dirt, which makes sense because obviously we used to do that once upon a time. I'd just wake up and I could hear like a cicada flying into the fire, and I'd just wake up and be like, all right, midnight snack.
Sick.
Whoa. Wow.
That's crazy. You weren't scared of predators or anything, or?
Nah, not really. Like they were definitely there. Like jackals and leopards and stuff like that.
They don't like the fire though, hey? Like if you have fire around,
So that's why we had to make a fire. Like that's like a necessity. You have to make a fire for like safety, because animals still come right up. Like they have got camera footage of like these crazy ass animals coming up around. And then like one night we actually heard, like a leopard killed a baboon pretty close to where we were. God. And like it was brutal. It was not that baboon. It took a while for that leopard to eat that baboon. Like it was still alive. I was like, holy shit. Didn't sleep at all that night. Like you literally just, that was rough. That was rough.
Holy fuck, dude. Baboons are the scariest things ever too. They got the hugest teeth and they just look like they got death in their eyes. Like,
yeah. Actually, before we did the show, there's like this, I guess there's like a bit of a survival expert, gives you a bit of a rundown. He's like, mate, if you see a lion, run. If you see an elephant, run. If you see a leopard, you're already dead.
Really?
Yeah. Like a little sound.
Yeah, I know. They all say the leopards are like the gnarliest, eh?
Yeah, and he lifted up his shirt.
Yeah.
One of these guys lifted up his shirt, and he's like, he just had scars across his whole stomach where a leopard, he just said it was just like this flash, went across his guts and just ripped his guts.
Whoa.
Yeah, and he survived. But yeah, I was like, holy
how's that they just go for the organs, eh? Those fuckers.
I remember watching one go through like a car window and slash this guy's face, like, and or did it even get in the car? Or it was something gnarly where it was like you just didn't want to be there, eh? And I remember it did not look good. Like needed, I don't know if he survived or not. That's how bad it was.
Fuck, like our flesh is just so soft, eh? Like
we're just so
we're so mortal, so mortal, man.
Yeah.
If someone if we got dropped right now in the Australian bush, and I'm not even going to say where. Let's just say the Australian bush, right? I guess you could clarify. Like, what's the first thing that, say, if I got dropped in the bush right now, what's the first thing that I should be doing to survive, and the average person?
I mean, I'm not going to claim to be a survival expert. I just love being in the bush, and it just seems to work.
But you
out.
are.
But you've got some more intel than we do.
To us, you are. Like
okay.
to the average person,
we're going off that.
Yeah.
I mean, water's. Well, it would depend on the situation. But like water's obviously your main priority because you can like survive for a fair while without food. It was, I think I even heard you guys say it really good, like the 3 3s. It's like 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without air or something like that. Like that's a pretty accurate kind of, gauge, I reckon. Yeah. But water would be first. You can go for a fair while without food. But then I didn't know that either until I'd done this show. Because even I didn't know. I was like trying to ask people like, how long can you go without food? And everyone's like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, damn. I don't but then now I've done it. I'm like, oh, okay, I know what my body's capable of. Everyone's different. But yeah, like food would be first. I mean, water would be first. And then like shelter for sure. Cause like, cold wind or anything like that's going to, zap you pretty quick. And then, yeah, food's probably like nearly the last thing, I guess.
Was there any stage on that show where you were like, you were thinking about rooting?
Mate, what are you asking? Nah, honestly, so I think everyone thinks that. You wild man. No, honestly, I don't know if you've experienced when you've fasted, but my body, like all those functions, just shut down.
Reproductive system's just like
any thoughts or desire of anything, gone.
Yeah,
so gone. But I guess if that answers
that answers that question. Then, yeah.
I guess even a week of jiu-jitsu by the end it's pretty gone, eh?
Oh, fucking oath.
It's like whenever you're just too young, man. Whenever you're too young, it's like it just goes, hey?
Yeah, my experience with, I haven't done fasting, like not even slightly, but I can't even do more than a day really. Well, I could, but I just choose not to. I did intermittent eating window. So I was just eating at night and I did it for 2 weeks because I thought, I feel good. And it got to about the 2 week period and I asked myself, am I really feeling good? And I looked at like my training and stuff like that. And I trained way less, and I started, and I felt stressed. Like I felt like my body was definitely in a higher state of stress, but it was like, it was in a way it was good because I was like, it's almost like so much more alert. I was thinking, but I knew that was aimed at like hunting, I knew that was like, but I got a lot out of it, I got a lot out of even that little, just eating once a day, being hungry and being okay to be hungry.
Yeah, and that's something that most people in the population don't know. That like feeling of being hungry, and like it is such an important, like it's important, but we don't. And like even now, I know it's like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna have to get hungry again. I mean, I say I haven't really fasted, but like the last couple of tours I did, when people come up and we're only eating what we catch, like I'm diving in doing that too. So it's like I've gone pretty hungry for the last like 30 days.
Yeah, fully. So how long? Say you catch an animal and you eat it, and you just like that'd be the best thing ever, hey. And then
everything tastes good when you're hungry.
Oh man,
how do you keep it? Like, say you're in the bush.
I got a fridge in my car. It's like solar power. Just for that fact, it's like it's not that big, so it can only hold so much. But yeah, you'd be surprised. Like even I'll fill the fridge up, doesn't take long, and I'll eat it out, and it's like got to start again.
Wow.
But like, yeah, it's just part of the experience as well. You know, like you get hungry and you get to feel the full spectrums of what it's like to like maybe live that way. But like, you know, that fully getting hungry and then like earning the food, which is something that like,
and you got to eat more than you think. Like Mickey, my mate, has recently gotten really into bow hunting. Just got his first couple of deer in that recently, and he was like, man, he's like, when you're walking all day through the bush, like fuck, you need some calories. He goes, I go do a couple of days and I come back skinny. And he goes, during it you're all right, but he goes, you don't realize how much calories you are burning and how much as a human male doing that you need to be eating more than you think. You know what I mean? More protein and fats than you think. And he goes, you only care about meat, like basically meat and a little bit of like maybe a bit of honey or something. You know, I'm sure they have fucking some vegetable oil bar or some shit. But like,
yeah, I'm fucking afraid of it. I take my hat off to you. I reckon it's crazy what you're doing. I reckon, fuck, it'd be so good. It'd be so good to go through that hardship.
Yeah. I never, I guess because of the responsibility of such a thing, I never wanted to call what I was doing a rite of passage, but the men that have been coming up have just said that like, this is a rite of passage. That's what they've started to say. And I was like, I guess I was a bit hesitant for that label for a little bit. And then I was like, I think because of the responsibility. And then I was like, nah, like, yeah, it is. And I've just got to own it. And it's like, all right, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Out in the bush. And it's just like, I love it as well to see people, the transformation.
Yeah.
But then also to, I guess, go through that experience with someone and just, yeah, man, you know, just like seeing people go out into the bush and think they don't know all these things, but like you do.
Yeah, it's
but you just gotta hit that switch.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. Eh?
And seeing people when they click and they turn on, that switch has been turned on, and you're like, that's pretty cool to see. Like men just nuts. Like,
have they all been good? They all handled it so far, all the guys? Like, has there been some really tough times for some of them? Or
yeah, like everyone's had their own experience. You know what I mean? Like everything's so unique. It's so different because like the weather and everything can like have this. You know, like there's so many different factors. But no, everyone's like, you know, they get what they need out of it. If they have a good experience, it's what, you know, that's what they needed. If they have a bad experience, it's probably what they needed.
Yeah. Fully. Hey.
By the end, you just see them as like, what, like say the last day, are they just like calmer, or is it like I don't know. Can you put a word on how they've changed? Like do they? I just imagine like almost coming back from war or something. That's what I think.
It's like physically, because I don't see it, but it's like energetically, like people's testicles are getting pretty big by the end.
Yeah.
You can just feel it, like just people's voices are deeper at the end or something. You know what I mean? It's just like you can just tell, you're like, whoa, this dude.
Yeah, it is a rite of passage, completely. Yeah. Man, I reckon there needs to be like more footage of what you're doing. Like, I'd love to see more of it. Like, because I know it's like not what you're about and doing it that way, but fuck, I would watch that. I would love to see you out there doing your thing.
Yeah, and it's also been the catch-22. I remember when I first started traveling, I had all these ideas of like being some YouTube person that like can live off YouTube.
Yeah.
But the problem for me is that like I froth over being in the bush so much. I'm like out doing crazy stuff, and I'm like, oh damn, I left all my camera gear in the car. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Oh, absolutely.
whatever. I'm like, it's
can't-
fine. It's
you
just
can't film yourself
no,
either.
It just doesn't. That's what I've found. So
Yeah.
I just tend to, when I have people out with me on the experience, it's just like, if they like, you know, if it all lines up, maybe they'll get like a couple of videos of what they're doing. But generally, we're just so deep in it. It's just
You're
like
just trying to eat and survive,
Yeah,
right? You almost need someone to come out there just to film, eh?
that would be the only way that it would
Yeah.
even work. Someone would have to come
Yeah.
up. Yeah. And then they'd be going through the experience too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Or they
shit.
just have like all this food on them all the
Dude,
time.
imagine like I come up and I film it and I'm just like,
Eating burgers.
I'm like the wet blanket. Just like, I'm cold. I've run out of SD card room. Adam. It's like,
It's like, oh, they're just like wasting away. Eh? You just got like all these like dried meats and jerkies and
on
shit.
it bars and
You're
shit.
like, no, I got to keep it all authentic, boys. You can't have any. Like,
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
My
So I
blood
can
sugar
already
get
tell
too low.
if anyone comes up, they're going through. But
Yeah.
even just recently, like, I guess the guy was like pretty hesitant. He's like, oh, you know, I got like all these health things going on, and you know,
Yeah.
we went out there and just absolutely smashed it,
Fuck yeah.
and didn't even forgot about anything else. You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
just like,
How can you have shit going on when you're just trying to survive?
yeah, you just got to deal with it. Eh?
Yeah, you
Like,
just got to deal with it.
yeah.
Fuck, we should do it with you one time, eh?
Corrective culture goes on. Imagine and make it like really sick. Get like drone shots and everything.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it'd be
fully.
cool.
Hey, oh man, I think I need it as a rite of passage more than anything because I think I'd be probably a little bit of a bitch, to be honest.
Can you ever do 3-person ones? Or is that just too much?
Yeah, no, I can.
You can.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Recently just did one. So
All right.
All right,
That's
the
what we're gonna
next-
have to
That's the
do.
next business trip. I think.
Yeah, I reckon that's the next business trip.
I'd
Mid next year.
I'd be grateful and honoured
Yeah.
to take
Yeah.
you out, fellas.
Fuck.
That'd be
That'd be
awesome, man.
sick.
Yeah, well, if you guys all buy the Parasite Cleanse, that'll give us the money to pay Adam, and then fucking let's do it, and then we'll blog it, man.
It's amazing.
We 100% have to do that. Like that's gonna. I felt like even when you were coming on before, and it's been in my head for like 3 years since I first saw you. It's because I was watching all that hunting stuff, and I feel like you said, man, like because I got a Rico bow, and when I started shooting that, like as soon as I pulled and you become immediately present, and it did feel somewhat like, oh yeah, we've done this before or something, you know what I mean, in a weird way, and I know that's like it excites me, and I know it's a part of me. I know it's really hard too. I expect it to be really hard, but I know I'll just enjoy it so much, and if I want to be a man and have children one day, and I want to relay that onto them, and I want to sort of like be a leader in the community. So how can I do that without doing what men have done for millions of years?
Yeah.
You know?
One thing I've noticed, like a lot of the men at the moment that have been coming up, it seems to be like a rite of passage they want to do before they have kids. So a lot of the people that are coming up, they're about to, you know, start a family, and they're like, oh crap, I want to do this thing before I step into fatherhood. And I'm like, all right,
Yeah, fuck.
I'm the guide ready to go. Let's go.
Yeah, that's sick.
Where would
man.
we go, bro? If us three were to do it, where would you want to take us?
So I've been pretty lucky up in the Gulf to be allowed on Indigenous land up there. So it is the most wild, untouched place. So that's where we do
Is
it.
that Northern Territory or?
Right on the border of
Yeah.
the Northern Territory on the Queensland side. So
Yeah, awesome.
And
awesome.
is it really hot?
Yep.
Yeah, there's no aircon.
shady trees, about the coolest you'll get. And then that in itself, like that, just even like all the whole experience away from it, just like experiencing the environment like that and fully being in it, it's just like it's a pretty big experience.
Fuck it, I don't know. I'm terrified, man.
And
That's
yeah,
sick.
I when I was working in the Karratha, I was with one of the Indigenous guys that worked with me. He'd go out and do stuff all the time, and they just use like guns and that. But they would get what do we have? What's the like sea cow? What is that called? What's
The
the
dugong.
dugong? Yeah. So he got a video. He just jumps out of the water and spears this thing, and then just tows it behind his boat for like 3 hours or something until it drowns, and then we're all eating like tasted like cow that had eaten seaweed for its whole life, you know.
Wow.
And get turtles. And talk about bush. What do you call it? Like bush, not bush pig, but like a wild cow. What do they call them? Scrub
bull or scrub cattle. Yeah.
And he goes, it's just been eating like, you know, river water its whole life and grass. He goes, it tastes so good, man. And I was just like, fuck, that's awesome. So that even back then, I keep getting these little like, because he was saying he wanted to take me out too. So I keep getting these little like things from the universe, like, when are you ready? When are you ready? Are you fucking ready? Like, and
Yeah.
now I'm ready.
Do you have like much desire to hunt in like Oregon and places like, you know, like where Cameron Haynes and all those dudes hunt, you know, where they go backcountry for like 12 hours and shit. They like he walks in 12 hours and shit, doesn't he?
You know what I'd actually love to do? I'd actually love to go spend time with other like hunter-gatherer tribes around the world and just like
Fuck yeah.
hunt with them. Yeah, like I haven't really thought so much about hunting like, you know, in the States or anything like that. Like if it happens, it happens. That'd be cool. But I'd actually love to just get real dirty, real primal and primitive and just like go spend time with other cultures like that. And that's the way I'd love to hunt.
That'd be cool, man. You need to do a Netflix series on that.
Is there a country you wanted to go to first that pops out when you think about that, like PNG or
Africa?
Africa.
Yeah.
So
North Africa.
When people come out with me as well, where I'm going with that is, I guess most people think of bow hunting as a form of hunting, but like when I go out, I'll do persistence hunting where like I'll just run an animal down and catch it with my hands. Like that's
Wow.
that's my true passion. I just love that. Or I've recently started to get into doing some stuff with spears. Like that's
nuts.
Like that's more of an attraction for me, is actually going backwards in hunting and making it harder and doing it more primal.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's sick.
Yeah, man.
And
That's a full niche.
If you come up, like you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Oh,
fuck.
man.
Dude, that'd be psycho.
We got to do it.
Do a 25k marathon.
Yeah, imagine like I'd love. You know what we should do, dude? Before we do it, we'll blog like our fitness regime before it and try and design the perfect program for someone that's out in the bush, which is really just a lot of walking, right? But walking and running. And what sort of shoes do you wear when you're out there?
None. Or Vivo barefoots. None or Vivos.
Yeah, awesome.
Or Rocco's thongs.
And do you find like
Sick.
it's
Love
the
it.
Vivos are fine to stay quiet when you want to
Barefoot.
barefoot?
You got to go barefoot. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And why is that? Like, what's the difference between barefoot and Vivo when you are sneaking through?
Like Vivos are pretty thin, pretty sensitive, but nothing's better than your foot. Especially like when you know, like say it's a really when the ground's noisy. That's one of the terms. It's like, oh, the ground's dry and it's noisy.
Yeah.
In hunting, when you're trying to get close, and because obviously the form of hunting that I'm doing is like generally 5 meters or 10 meters would be a big distance, which probably seems
With your recurve, is this, or with?
Yeah, with either the compound, the recurve.
Yeah.
Is how that like I generally, if people come up with me, all the animals will be within 10 meters.
Yeah.
Which for some people they're like, holy crap, that's close, but it's just like it's either that or it's nothing. Yeah, we get that close or closer. And even just the last tour I did, the guy walked right up to the pig and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, too close. But yeah, like that's what I like to do. So when people come up, like that's what we do. But like there's that, but it could turn into running it, catching it, spear, who knows?
When you go personally, do you take longer shots? Would you say,
No, I'll do closer ones when I go by myself, because it's like, it's more dangerous. The closer you get, the more dangerous. Like actually, one of the last tours I just did, I nearly got done in by a scrub bull.
Really?
Yeah, nearly got me.
Wow. How so? Like, how close did you get?
So I'd caught it and wrestled it to the ground.
By the horns, or what is it like?
So there's a few different ways you can do it. Like you sort of grab the tail and it pulls them off balance and they'll fall down. But if you try to do that more than once, the cat'll learn. So you only got like one chance at doing it that way.
Yeah.
And then they'll learn. They'll just put their legs wide and you can't do that.
Yeah.
But that one actually grabbed it in a headlock and was just, it actually sounds really rough now the way I'm explaining it. But yeah, I just grabbed it and I was wrestling it. And then we caught it for the indigenous people, but they never end up showing up. So I let it go, and the first thing I wanted to do was get me.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I remember I was like running, And I could look down. I could see its horns like each side of me. It was that close.
Whoa.
And then what actually saved my ass was I tripped, and it ran over me. Like, didn't get me, but it ran over me, and it smacked my car as it kept going. Like, that's way too close, man.
Dude, that's fucking
I
crazy.
probably shouldn't be telling people that if they want
No,
to.
no, that's sick. That's the raw.
It's like it's pretty loose. It's pretty wild. It's like the level that it gets to.
That's crazy. Fuck, that's cool.
Yeah. Is that what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you or the closest call? Was that the closest
That's
call?
the closest one I've ever had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like close to death, like second way to death, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I probably would have just needed to go to the chiropractor or something after.
Yeah.
You know, I like to think I'm like, no, I probably would have been okay.
Yeah.
But if its horn
meh.
went into you, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And how far away were you from the nearest whatever hospital?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was probably minimum from a little outback hospital. I was probably like 4 hours away from that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Wow,
from the
that's fucking a long way out.
next actual hospital you would get to would have been over 1,000 k's to Cairns.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah, so you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just anyway.
That's cool, man. So for anyone listening that wants to get in touch with your tours, what are they got to do?
Yeah, just on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, they'll find me.
Yeah. So
Seems
Adam
pretty
Kavanagh on
Yep.
Instagram.
Yep.
People still use Facebook. Adam Kavanagh on Facebook. Send him a DM because I think that's what fucking I did years ago. And then we did a workout, and I remember just Donald and Kathy talked highly of it. They were like, "What did they say? Is like the most just down to earth or authentic man they've met," and that's probably how I describe you too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so much love, bro. I can't wait to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to get working on a fitness program for the bush.
Oh, let me know. I can point you in the right direction.
And then we'll do that, man. 100%. Like I'm saying that now, we 100% will do that. And I know I will, and I'm sure Jag will too. So let's fucking
65%. Nah, I'm keen.
yeah. So
Good to film it.
yeah. How cool would that be? How
That'd be
fucking
insane.
cool would that be?
Do a whole blog and a thing on it.
You only live once.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why.
Yeah.
That shit always gets me pumped. So
Yeah, fully.
and then we'll teach you some jiu-jitsu, which is nowhere near as intense, but
Yeah.
that'd be fun. I'm sure you would love that shit.
Fuck yeah.
All right. Well,
Thanks for coming on, bro.
thanks for coming
Thank
on.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so
Appreciate it.
much for
Yeah.
having me on. I appreciate it.
Well overdue. We'll do another one.
Yeah.
Legend.